He fed 2 alien sisters. 10 minutes later, 10,000 warships arrived. The lower decks of Harrogate Station always smelled the same. Old metal, recycled air, and the quiet desperation of people who had nowhere else to go. Cargo workers passed through quickly, eyes forward, pretending not to see the refugees sitting along the walls. It was easier that way. On the frontier, kindness often came with consequences. Elias Ward moved more slowly than most. He was a human in his early 30s, broad-shouldered from years of lifting crates, with tired eyes that had seen too many docking bays and too many forgotten faces. His shift had ended, and his boots echoed softly against the steel floor as he headed toward the lift that would take him back to the upper habitation rings. That was when he noticed the movement near the heat vent. 2 small figures were huddled together behind a broken supply crate. At first glance, Elias thought they were children, though their bodies were thinner than any human child should ever be. Their skin had a faint, pale shimmer, almost like light passing through frost. Long, delicate fingers clutched each other tightly. One of them lifted her head when Elias passed, and her eyes, large, dark, and far too alert, locked onto his. She did not beg, she did not speak. She simply stared, and something in that look made Elias stop. He stood there for a moment, feeling foolish. The station rules were clear. Do not interfere with unregistered alien refugees. Feeding the wrong species could cause medical emergencies, diplomatic violations, or worse. Everyone knew the stories. A trader fined into poverty. A mechanic arrested for unauthorized biological contact. People learned quickly to mind their own business. Elias looked around. Shows of concern usually drew attention, but the corridor was mostly empty. A few silhouettes moved in the distance, pretending not to see anything. He sighed and knelt down, lowering himself to their level. "Hey," he said gently, keeping his voice calm. "You two lost." The smaller one pressed closer to her sister. The older one did not move, but her gaze never left his face. Up close, Elias could see faint cracks along their lips, a sign of dehydration common across many species. Their breathing was shallow. They were starving. Elias reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a sealed ration pack. It was nothing special, compressed nutrient bars and a thermal pouch of protein stew. He had planned to eat it later. A long day on the docks always made him hungry. He hesitated, the warning signs flashing in his mind. Unknown species, unknown biology, unknown consequences. Then the younger sister's stomach made a soft, almost painful sound. That decided it. Elias tore open the ration pack and broke a nutrient bar in half. He held out one piece, keeping his movements slow and non-threatening. "It's food," he said. "Nothing fancy." "You don't have to take it." The older sister studied the bar, then Elias, as if weighing something far beyond hunger. Finally, she reached out and took it with trembling fingers. She sniffed it cautiously, then broke off a small piece and tasted it. Her eyes widened. She swallowed, then took another bite, faster this time. The younger sister watched with growing urgency until the older one handed her a piece as well. Soon both were eating, careful at first, then with quiet desperation. Elias opened the thermal pouch and let the steam escape. The smell of warm food filled the small space. He poured a little into the lid and set it on the floor between them. They froze again. "It's okay," he said softly. "It's warm." The older sister leaned forward, dipped a finger into the liquid, and tasted it. Her reaction was immediate. She made a soft sound, something between surprise and relief, and nodded to her sister. They ate slowly, savoring every mouthful. Elias sat back against the wall, giving them space. He did not ask questions. Sometimes people or aliens needed food more than words. Unseen above them, a station sensor adjusted its focus. Biological readings spiked. Vital signs stabilized. A hidden subroutine flagged the data and transmitted it through channels older than the station itself. Channels no one remembered were still active. Far beyond Harrogate Station, something ancient and powerful stirred. When the sisters finished eating, the younger one leaned against her sibling and closed her eyes. The older sister wiped her hands carefully, then looked at Elias again. This time her gaze was different, focused, measuring. "You fed us," she said. Her voice surprised him. It was soft, musical, but carried a strange weight, as if each word mattered deeply. "Yeah," Elias replied. "Figured you needed it." "You knew the risk," she said. He shrugged. "Didn't seem right to let you starve." The older sister tilted her head slightly, studying him as if seeing him clearly for the first time. Others walked past. "I noticed," Elias said quietly. She looked down at her sister, then back up. Our people remember debts. Elias chuckled softly. You don't owe me anything. Just take care of each other, okay? For a moment, neither of them spoke. The hum of the station filled the silence. Then the older sister reached out and gently touched the wall beside him. Her fingers left a faint, glowing mark that quickly faded. Elias did not notice. We will remember you, she said. Before he could reply, a loud announcement echoed through the corridor. Attention all personnel, unscheduled security sweep in progress. Please remain where you are. Elias frowned. Security sweeps were rare down here. He stood slowly. Listen, he said, they might ask questions. I can walk you to a registration desk. The older sister shook her head. No, she helped her sister stand. The younger one looked stronger now, her posture more stable. Our path is different, the older one said. Elias wanted to ask what she meant, but before he could, a distant rumble shook the station. It was subtle at first, like a vibration through the floor. Then the lights flickered. Elias looked up, heart pounding. That's not normal. The older sister's expression remained calm. Almost relieved. Do not be afraid, she said. You are safe. Station alarms blared suddenly, sharp and urgent. Red warning lights flooded the corridor. Unidentified hyperspace signatures detected, a panicked voice announced over the speakers. Multiple contacts. Range collapsing rapidly. Elias felt his blood run cold. Multiple, the older sister nodded once. Very many, she said. Elias stared at her. What did you do? She met his gaze without fear. We survived. Outside the station, space itself tore open. One by one, massive shapes emerged from hyperspace, their hulls dark and impossibly vast. Then more followed, and more. Thousands upon thousands, forming a silent ring around Harrogate Station. 10,000 warships arrived without a single shot fired. Inside the station, chaos erupted. On the lower deck, Elias stood frozen as the realization slowly sank in. He looked at the two sisters, now standing taller, no longer looking like helpless refugees. I just gave you food, he whispered. The older sister placed a hand over her heart in a gesture that felt ancient. And in doing so, she said, you reminded the galaxy who you are. The alarms continued to scream as the fate of entire civilizations quietly shifted, because one human chose kindness when it mattered most. Chaos spread through Harrogate Station like a living thing. People shouted in a dozen languages. Security drones lifted from their docks, red lights flashing. The artificial gravity flickered once, twice, before stabilizing again. On every public screen, warning symbols replaced advertisements and travel notices. Elias Ward stood frozen in the corridor, his ears ringing from the alarms. Around him, refugees ran in fear, clutching children, bags, memories. Some dropped to their knees, praying to gods they had not spoken to in years. 10,000 warships. Even saying the number inside his head felt unreal. He turned slowly toward the two alien sisters. Just moments ago, they had been weak, half-starved, barely able to stand. Now they stood upright, calm and composed, their eyes reflecting the red emergency lights without fear. You need to tell me what's happening, Elias said. His voice was steady, though his chest felt tight. Because fleets like that don't just show up. The older sister looked at the younger one, who held her hand tightly. Then she looked back at Elias. Our people were hunted, she said simply. Long ago. Elias frowned. Hunted by who? By fear, she replied. Security officers rounded the corner, weapons raised but hands shaking. Their visors scanned the corridor, locking onto the sisters almost instantly. Unregistered entities, one officer shouted. Step away from them, sir. Elias instinctively moved half a step in front of the girls. He did not even realize he was doing it. They're just kids, he said. They haven't hurt anyone. The older sister's eyes flicked to his back. Something unreadable passed across her face. Sir, move now, the officer repeated, his voice cracking. That fleet is responding to something, and these two match no known civilian species. Before Elias could respond, the floor trembled again. A deep, heavy vibration rolled through the station, stronger than before. Some of the officers stumbled. A new voice cut through the chaos, echoing from every speaker, every screen. It was not translated at first. The sound was low and resonant, layered with harmonics that made Elias' skin prickle. The station's translation system struggled, symbols flickering wildly. Then, slowly, the words resolved. Who shelters our blood? The officers froze. The older sister stepped forward, gently moving past Elias. She stood tall now, no trace of weakness left in her posture. "This one," she said, gesturing back toward Elias. "He gave us food when no one else would." The words echoed across the station, carried by the translation system into every corner. A heavy silence followed. On the bridge of the station, commanders stared at sensor readings that made no sense. The fleet outside was perfectly aligned. Defensive formations, escort wings, command vessels, every movement precise, disciplined. This was not an invasion posture, this was protection. Back on the lower deck, the voice spoke again, clearer this time. "Bring him to us, gently." Elias swallowed. "I'm guessing they mean me." The officers looked at one another, unsure. None of their training covered this. The older sister turned to Elias. "You will not be harmed," she said, "by them or by us." "That's comforting," Elias muttered. A soft hum filled the corridor. Light bent strangely, folding inward. A circular field of pale energy formed around Elias and the sisters, warm and steady. He felt no pain, only a light pressure like standing in an elevator. Then the station vanished. They emerged into a vast chamber aboard one of the warships. The scale of it made Elias' breath catch. The walls curved upward and outward, covered in faintly glowing patterns that shifted like living symbols. The air was clean, carrying a subtle, unfamiliar scent. Figures stood waiting. They were tall, graceful beings with the same shimmering skin as the sisters, though darker and more complex in pattern. Their eyes glowed softly, filled with intelligence and something else Elias could not name. At the center stood a figure larger than the rest, adorned with flowing ceremonial markings. The sisters stepped forward and bowed deeply. "We have returned," the older one said, "by the mercy of a human." The chamber stirred. Murmurs rippled through the gathered beings, a low wave of sound that vibrated through the floor. The central figure studied Elias carefully. "You are the one," the figure said, voice resonant but calm. "You fed our lost heirs." Elias shifted uncomfortably. "I fed 2 hungry kids." The figure tilted its head. "You saw them as children, not weapons, not leverage, not threats." "I saw them as people," Elias replied before he could stop himself. A pause followed. Then, slowly, the figure inclined its head. "That answer confirms what we feared and hoped." Elias glanced at the sisters. "You're important, aren't you?" The younger sister smiled faintly for the first time. "We are daughters of the conclave." The word meant nothing to Elias, but the reaction around him told him it meant everything to them. The leader raised a hand and the chamber quieted. "For centuries," the leader said, "the galaxy has feared us. They call us extinction bringers, world breakers, monsters hiding behind treaties. When one of our kind was harmed, we responded with overwhelming force. Fear taught them to keep their distance." Images appeared in the air, worlds burning, fleets shattered, entire civilizations falling silent. Elias' stomach turned. "But fear," the leader continued, "also taught them to abandon us when we were weak." The images changed. Refugee convoys turned away, borders closed. Children left to starve in forgotten places. The sisters stood silently. "Our heirs were lost during an evacuation," the leader said. "The galaxy chose not to see them, you chose otherwise." Elias felt suddenly very small. "I didn't know who they were." "That is why it matters," the leader replied. "Kindness without knowledge is the purest test." The leader gestured, and another image formed, Harrogate Station, zooming in on the lower deck corridor. Elias saw himself kneeling, offering food, looking unsure but determined. 10,000 warships did not arrive because you fed them," the leader said. "They arrived because you reminded us what we once believed possible." Elias swallowed hard. "What happens now?" The leader's gaze shifted, sharp and focused. "Now," it said, "the galaxy will answer for its choices." Elias stiffened. "If this is about revenge, it is about judgment," the leader interrupted gently, "and protection." Outside the chamber, the massive fleet adjusted formation, tightening its perimeter, not around the station alone, but extending outward, forming a shield that encompassed nearby human trade routes. Elias noticed the sisters watching the displays with quiet intensity. "You're protecting us?" he asked. "We protect those who protect life," the older sister said. "You protected us first." A communication channel opened. Representatives from multiple species appeared on floating displays, panicked, defensive, desperate. "What do you want?" one demanded. "Name your price." The leader turned its attention to them. "We want no tribute," it said. "No territory, no obedience." The representatives looked confused. "We want recognition," the leader continued. That humanity, though young and fragile, chose compassion where you chose caution. From this moment on, any harm to human civilians will be answered by us. Gasps echoed across the channels. You can't, one ambassador began. We can, the leader said calmly, and we will. Elias felt his knees weaken. He had never wanted power, never wanted influence. He had just wanted to help. The leader turned back to him. You will return to your station, it said. Your life will continue. But know this, Elias ward of Earth, your species has passed a trial it did not know it was taking. Elias nodded slowly. I don't feel like I did anything special. The younger sister stepped closer and took his hand. That is why it matters, she said. Light gathered again around them. As the chamber faded, Elias caught one last glimpse of the fleet, silent, watchful, immense. Back on Harrogate Station, time resumed. Officers stared as Elias and the sisters reappeared in the corridor. The alarms slowly quieted, replaced by stunned silence. News feeds exploded across the galaxy. The words spread faster than fear ever had. A human fed 2 alien children. And the galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. The silence after the alarm stopped felt heavier than the noise had been. Harrogate Station did not return to normal. It could not. People stood frozen in corridors, staring at screens that showed the massive alien fleet holding position around the station. 10,000 warships hung in space like dark stars, unmoving and patient. Elias Ward was escorted away from the lower decks by station security, but the way they treated him had changed. No one grabbed him, no one shouted. They walked beside him carefully like he might break if handled too roughly. The 2 alien sisters walked with him. Every eye followed them, whispers spread fast, that's him. He could feel the weight of the galaxy pressing in from every direction. They were taken to a secure observation chamber near the station's command center. The walls were reinforced transparently, giving a clear view of space beyond. The fleet filled the stars completely. Station Commander Rhea Solon stood waiting. She was an older woman, her uniform neat but her hands trembling slightly as she clasped them behind her back. She looked at Elias, then at the sisters. You have placed this station in an impossible position, she said carefully. Elias opened his mouth to reply, but the older sister spoke first. You placed yourselves in this position long before today, she said calmly. The commander stiffened. You are in no position to. But we are not here to threaten. That is why your station still stands. We request a full account of how our children came to starve within your territory. A system that allowed children to fade unseen. The leader's gaze shifted back to Elias. You will remain under our protection, it said, but protection carries responsibility. The galaxy must hear it from one of its own. He had never even spoken at a union meeting before. The sisters stood just behind him, their presence steady and calm. A light blinked on. Elias took a breath. My name is Elias Ward, he began. I work cargo on Harrogate Station. I'm not important. I don't represent Earth or humanity or anyone else. I just knew they needed food. But if safety means letting kids starve, then maybe something's wrong with how we've decided to live. The reaction was immediate. Protests erupted on several worlds. Aid groups demanded reforms. Refugee laws were questioned openly for the first time in decades. Some governments pushed back, calling it manipulation, but their words felt weak compared to the images now circulating. 2 small alien girls eating their first real meal in days. On Harrogate Station, tension grew. Not everyone welcomed the fleet's presence. Merchants complained about halted trade. Politicians sent angry messages. Some security officers whispered that Elias should never have interfered. One night cycle, Elias sat alone in a small quarters assigned to him. The room felt too clean, too quiet. A soft knock came at the door. The older sister stepped inside. You cannot sleep, she observed. Not really, Elias replied. Feels like the galaxy's waiting for something to go wrong. Why didn't anyone come for you sooner? A coalition patrol ship attempted to breach the fleet's outer perimeter, claiming inspection rights. The alien warships did not fire. They simply moved. One moment the patrol ship had space ahead of it. The next it was gently but firmly surrounded, its engines disabled without damage. The message sent back was simple. No harm will come to humanity. They believed humanity had become a target by association. That Elias was a symbol too dangerous to exist. They waited for a moment when the sisters were not nearby. They chose wrong. The attempt failed before it began. Security alarms tripped. The alien sisters appeared in the corridor like ghosts, their eyes glowing faintly. The conspirators froze, overwhelmed by a presence they could not understand. Elias arrived moments later, breathless. "What's happening?" he demanded. The younger sister clutched his arm. "They were afraid," she said softly. Elias looked at the frightened faces of the people restrained on the floor. "So was I," he said. "Still am." Word of the incident spread. Something shifted. People began leaving food near refugee zones, not just humans, other species too. Quiet acts, small acts, brave acts. The alien leader observed it all from the flagship. "This was not the trial we expected," one advisor said. "No," the leader replied, "it is better." For the first time since that moment near the heat vent, he allowed himself to believe that kindness could survive even under the weight of 1,000 warships, and that the real test was only just beginning. Days passed, but the galaxy did not calm down. If anything, the tension grew heavier. Harrogate Station had become the center of attention for hundreds of worlds. News drones hovered outside its hull. Messages flooded its communication systems. Every decision made inside the station now felt like it could tilt history in one direction or another. Elias Ward felt that weight more than anyone. He was no longer allowed to return to cargo work. His supervisor had tried to joke about it, calling him too important for boxes now, but the smile did not last. Elias missed the routine. He missed being invisible. Instead, he spent his days walking the station with the two alien sisters. Refugee zones that had once been ignored now watched them carefully. Some people bowed, some stared, some looked away in shame. The younger sister, whose name Elias had learned was Sira, stayed close to him. She asked many questions about humans, why they ate together, why they shared stories, why they laughed even when life was hard. The older sister, Lynn, watched everything quietly. She listened more than she spoke. "You don't have to stay with me all the time," Elias said one cycle as they walked past a crowded market corridor. "I'm not exactly exciting company," Sira smiled. "You are steady. That is exciting to us." Elias did not know what to say to that. Not everyone on the station shared that feeling. In the command center, Commander Solon listened as reports came in from across human space. Trade routes were changing. Some species pulled back, afraid of angering the massive fleet. Others moved closer, hoping for protection. Human leadership was divided. Some leaders called the alien presence a miracle. Others called it a threat wrapped in kindness. And some wanted it gone. A high-level meeting was called between human representatives and the alien fleet. Elias was told he would attend. "I'm not a diplomat," Elias protested when Commander Solon informed him. "No," she agreed, "but you're the reason they're here." The meeting took place in a neutral chamber between the station and the flagship. The room was large and plain, designed to avoid favoring any species. A long table divided the space. On one side sat human officials, dressed in formal uniforms and layered fabrics. On the other side stood the alien leader and several advisors, their presence calm but overwhelming. Elias sat in the middle, feeling very small. A human representative spoke first. "Your fleet's protection has disrupted balance. We appreciate the intent, but this level of force creates fear." The alien leader responded evenly. "Fear already existed. We have only revealed it." Another human leaned forward. "Are you planning to stay indefinitely?" "We will remain as long as humanity remains threatened," the leader said. "That could be forever," someone muttered. Elias cleared his throat. All eyes turned to him. "I don't think anyone here wants war," he said. "Or fear. What happened started with two kids who needed food. If this turns into power games, then we've missed the point." The room went quiet. The alien leader regarded him carefully. "You speak again without authority." Elias nodded. "I know, I always do." A pause followed. Then the leader said, "That is why your words still matter." The meeting ended without a clear resolution. The fleet stayed. The humans argued among themselves. The galaxy watched. That night, Harrogate Station went dark, not fully but enough. Lights dimmed across entire sectors. Gravity fluctuated slightly. Emergency systems kicked in. Elias was in a residential corridor with the sisters when the station shuddered violently. "What was that?" he asked. Lynn's eyes narrowed. "Sabotage." Security alerts filled the air. A power relay near the outer hull had been damaged. If it failed completely, several refugee sections would lose life support. Elias did not hesitate. He ran. Elias, Sira called after him. I know the maintenance routes, he shouted back. Stay here, but they did not stay. The corridors closer to the damaged relay were filled with smoke and flickering lights. Emergency crews struggled to reach the area, blocked by collapsed sections and damaged lifts. Elias crawled through a narrow service tunnel, coughing, his hands scraped raw against metal. He reached the relay chamber and froze. The damage was worse than expected. The relay core sparked violently, unstable and overheating. If it failed, the pressure loss would be immediate. Elias looked at the control panel. Most systems were offline. Manual override was possible, but someone would have to stay behind to hold it in place until backup power engaged. Of course, he muttered. Figures. He activated the override. The core screamed as energy surged through it. Heat filled the chamber. Behind him, the sisters appeared at the tunnel entrance. No, Elias said sharply. Get back, Lynn stepped forward. If you remain, you will be injured. Maybe, Elias said, but people will live. Sira's eyes filled with something close to fear. You are not expendable. Elias smiled faintly. Neither are they. The override indicator crept slowly upward, 30%, 40%. The heat became unbearable. Outside the station, sensors detected the power failure. The alien fleet reacted instantly. Ships moved closer. Energy fields locked into place around the station's damaged sections, stabilizing pressure. Inside the chamber, Elias' vision blurred. Then a cool presence surrounded him. Lynn stood beside him, her hand glowing faintly as she reinforced the core. Sira joined her, focusing deeply. You should not carry this alone, Lynn said. The indicator reached full power. The relay stabilized. Emergency systems came back online. Elias collapsed to the floor, gasping. When he woke, he was in a medical bay. Commander Solon stood nearby, along with human doctors and alien observers. You nearly killed yourself, the commander said. Elias winced. Still here, though. The alien leader appeared on a nearby display. You chose again, it said. Risk over safety, others before self. Elias shifted uncomfortably. It just needed doing. The leader's eyes softened slightly. Your species continues to surprise us. News of the incident spread quickly. Not just that the relay was saved, but how. A human cargo worker, 2 alien heirs, no weapons, no orders. Just action, public opinion began to change. Fear gave way to respect. Some of the species that had once closed their borders quietly opened them again. Aid ships followed. Refugees were moved to safer places. The fleet did not fire a single shot. It did not need to. One evening, Elias sat by a viewport watching the stars. Sira leaned against his side. Lynn stood nearby. Do you regret feeding us? Sira asked suddenly. Elias thought about it. No, he said. Even knowing everything that happened, I'd do it again. Lynn nodded. Then the galaxy may yet survive itself. Outside, the warships held their silent vigil. And for the first time, humanity was not being judged by how hard it could fight, but by how far it was willing to go to protect life without asking for anything in return. The final choice was coming. Everyone could feel it. And whatever happened next would decide more than just peace. It would decide what kind of future the galaxy deserved. The galaxy did not change all at once. Change like that never came with loud sounds or bright flashes. It came quietly, through many small decisions made by ordinary people who had seen something they could not forget. Harrogate Station slowly returned to its routines, but nothing felt the same. Refugee zones were cleaner. Food stations stayed stocked. People who once hurried past now slowed down, even if only for a moment. Elias Ward noticed it every day. He was allowed to return to work, though his job had changed. Instead of lifting cargo, he helped coordinate supply movement for refugee sectors. It was not glamorous, but it mattered. He liked that. The 2 sisters remained with him. Sira laughed more now. She followed Elias everywhere, asking endless questions and copying small human habits. She tried to mimic the way he drank from a cup, the way he waved casually at people he recognized. Sometimes she failed and spilled water everywhere. Elias pretended not to notice. Lynn stayed quieter, but her eyes missed nothing. She spent long hours speaking with her people through secure channels, helping shape decisions that would echo across the galaxy. The fleet remained, but it no longer felt like a threat. It felt like a promise. Then came the summons. A full galactic assembly was called, something that had not happened in generations. Leaders from hundreds of species gathered in a shared space, both physical and virtual. Some appeared as towering holograms. Others sat behind thick shields or translation fields. Human representatives attended, nervous but determined. So did Elias. He tried to refuse. "I'm not supposed to be here," he told Commander Solon. She gave him a tired smile. Neither was history. It showed up anyway. Above it, stars were visible through a transparent dome. The alien fleet remained in orbit, distant but present. When the alien leader entered, the room fell silent. "We are here," the leader said, "to end a cycle." "For centuries, fear has ruled our choices," the leader continued. "We feared one another's strength, we feared loss, we feared responsibility. And so, when the weak suffered, we looked away." Elias saw himself on the screen again, kneeling near the heat vent, holding out food with an unsure hand. "I didn't ask for this," Elias whispered. Sira squeezed his hand. The leader turned toward him. "You did not ask," it agreed. "You acted. From this point forward, no world under our watch may deny aid to those in need. Not because of treaties, not because of fear, but because it is right." "No," it said, "we are revealing it. If we are to be judged by our kindness, then we must live up to it. When one species turns away from suffering, others will remember." The massive fleet did not withdraw completely, but it shifted outward, taking positions far from trade lanes. Its presence was still felt, but no longer suffocating. Refugees were relocated, borders softened. Laws changed, slowly, imperfectly, but truly. One quiet cycle, Elias stood again near the heat vent on the lower deck. The space had been cleaned, repaired. A small plaque had been placed nearby. It did not mention his name. It read simply, "You changed the galaxy," Sira said proudly. Elias shook his head. "No, I just didn't look away." Elias walked with them to the docking bay. "I guess this is it," he said, forcing a small smile. Sira hugged him tightly. "You are family." Figures. Elias remained a cargo worker. That mattered most to him. One day, a young alien child approached him near the markets, holding a small ration pack. "For you," the child said shyly. Elias blinked. "What's this for?" Elias smiled and accepted it. Above the station, the stars burned quietly. Far away, the fleet watched, but it no longer needed to act. The galaxy had learned something simple, and that was enough. Humanity had not won through strength. It had won by remembering how to be kind, even when no one was watching. And that lesson would travel farther than any warship ever could.